Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Zwift Race Place. Today, we are going to be bringing you live coverage and commentary of the TFC Mad Monday race. Let's see. I am Cade Fravel. Sorry about that. Cam not connected there. But first up, we are going to be going over our course Velo Viewer today. As you can see right here. Today we are doing one lap of the 2018 UCI Worlds Course Short Lap. This is your course Velo Viewer. You can see written in orange the start-finish line just around that small 90-degree turn there. Right where that start-finish text is. Then the riders proceeding around the route clockwise, so heading up that steeper side. Or not quite steeper side, they're pretty close in gradient, but heading up that left side of the Innsbruck KOM, then down the right side, over the leg snapper, and then into the finish. I believe this course is about 23.7 kilometers today and averages around 0% gradient, so pretty even gradient average there as it is a loop. Now we will be going on course with our riders in just a moment, but first I just wanted to talk about some new features coming up on the Zwift Race Place. First up, we are going to be starting a new series, and this is going to be our community coaching tips. So community riders coming on to the show and sharing their coaching tips. If you would like to be brought onto the show, just click on the link in the live chat over to the right and fill out that form, or the link is also down in the description below. And our second new feature coming up soon on the Zwift Race Place, we're going to be doing some route recon rides, starting with the Watopia Hilly course, as that was the first course brought onto Zwift, and it seems adequate that it is the first course that we recon. Now, into the action. You can see we are watching, I believe this is A. Engman here, and this is our C category start right now, so we are on course with our C category racers. I believe all categories are visible on course for this race, so we should be able to go in with our A, B, and D categories later on in the race. Right now, Anders Engman, the Swedish rider that we're watching at the front of this race, sitting just up towards the front here, first place overall in that orange jersey. Just bouncing around through this pack. A couple of TFC jerseys now coming up there. And this is your front C pack, already through that start-finish line and heading towards our Innsbruck KOM for today. That is the big climb on the course. Now, for some reason, unable to get into our A, B, and D race right now, so we will be with our C racers for a little while. Still watching Anders Engman in the middle of this pack, coming around this right-hand turn, and then they'll take another 90-degree turn to the left here. These riders just about 2 minutes into this race now and just hitting the 1 mile mark, moving at 26 miles per hour. Fast on the flats, but that speed will decrease drastically once they hit the early slopes of the KOM. Split P, one of our racers from the TFC Friday Criterium series. If you want to see him racing, go back and check out our video from Friday on that Friday Criterium series. But he says at 100 kilos decided not to race in this race. Understandable, as it is a bit of a climber's course. Split P winning the D category in that Friday Criterium race. Great finish there if you guys want to go and check out that video. Anders Engman now back towards the middle of this pack, and moving up into the front of the group is D Brown on the front right now. Now getting a nice overhead view of the riders here as they hit the early slopes of this KOM. This is 8% gradient now, 9%, and riders moving to the front. Moving up with our leading rider on the road now, Jay Collerup. He has got about 6 seconds to the main pack now and 3 seconds to the chasing rider, A. Veldias. Switch over to our sorry about that, just did not mean to switch there. Just getting back in with our riders and Jay Collerup. Now about 7 seconds back to the rest of this pack. This is an interesting course. It is shorter than the traditional UCI lap, but still breaks the legs all the same, including that same KOM climb. In our C race, looking at some past performances on this climb from some of these riders, and it looks like a 23:05 was the fastest time on this climb in our C category so far. Not quite sure who put in that time. It looks like Tora Alt Fugelgard. There he is, sitting 8 seconds behind this current move off the front, moving to the front of the pack, trying to make a chase, sitting in 3rd place overall right now, dropping back down to 4th, pushing around 4 watts per kilograms, while Jay Collerup in the front, pushing over 4.5 and just distancing this chase group behind, now up over a 10-second gap to the group behind. Jay Collerup now got that gap out to 15 seconds to the chaser El Canosa. Going back with him now, seeing Canosa just off the front of this main pack, chasing pretty hard, just over 4 watts per kilograms here. I apologize, but it looks like we are not going to be able to watch our A, B, and D category riders, as this event, although it says in Zwift Power, is set as an all riders visible event. I entered the C category, and apparently that is the only category I can see. El Canosa now just pulling 2 seconds off the front of this group. If you are curious about what is going on in our A category, Matthew Webster leading out that race on the front, but the pack is still together. Damien Kroc up there, Michael Podstein, and Patrick Brady, as well as Ross Chaplin, are sitting in the top 5 in your A category. Split P just saying in the chat there, Shame Collar-Up is a Cat A. And yes, Jakob Collar-Up is in fact minimum category A, as being shown on Zwift Power. Thank you for that, Split P. Some other riders also sandbagging in the C category though. Luis Canosa sitting in second place overall, about 6 seconds off the front group, also sandbagging. Minimum category B for him. And then Tor Alt Fuggerard is sitting right around the middle of that backpack right now, also a minimum category B, as well as Craig Parsons and Friso DeVore. So, Collar-Up, not the only rider sandbagging here, but he is the rider sandbagging off the front. Now, the gap out to about 30 seconds, just over to that main pack behind, and it looks like this gap is only going to grow. These riders not even halfway up this KOM, as the gradient's starting to hit 10-11%. This is where it really gets steep here in the middle. The gap coming down a little bit now to Luis Canosa and T. Fuglerud, two of our chasing riders, both minimum cap B on Zwift Power. Although now going back out to 30 seconds, believe those two have broken off of the front of the main group behind. If we can go back with these two riders. This is Fuglerud of the BAB team, and Canosa just riding off in front of him. Now a second back to the Danish rider, I believe, and still about 7-8 seconds back to the rest of the pack. And this big attack by Collar-Up really blowing this race apart. Luis Canosa now breaking away from Fuglerud in this leading little breakaway, or not quite leading, but ahead of the main pack here. And a group of 3 riders, T-Wall, T-Fuglerud, and G.O., only 7 seconds behind Canosa, chasing him down now. The gap just went from 8 seconds to 7 seconds. While Jay Collar-Up continues to ride away from them in the distance, the gap now 34 seconds from Canosa to Collar-Up. Down on the bottom, you can see our current Cat A series standings. Just scrolling across the screen there. So we go back into the group behind with T-Wall. Our Bob Jr. of the TFC squad, just a second behind T-Wall. See if we can join him, trying to catch back on to the back of this group. As our Bob Jr. is a youth rider, their profile is currently private, but just requested to follow them, see if we can get some stats regarding age and weight on our Bob Jr. He is a level 19 Zwift racer with a strong 20-minute watts per kilograms, as many younger or lighter riders do. That lower weight number definitely benefits climbers, that lower weight number is often associated with climbers as it benefits riders on the climbs. Less weight to drag up the hill. Now a more organized group of 4 chasers here, about 2 seconds to Kay Kennis and 8 seconds to another rider back there, not sure who that is yet. Those 2 riders trying to chase on to this group of 4, chasing down our leader, Jay Collar. And then behind that is the main pack, around 20 seconds back. Our Bob Jr. now moving farther towards the front of this chase group. And these 4 riders here are our third group on the road, trying to bring back El Canosa and Jay Collar. Canosa 8 seconds ahead of them, and now he is in sight. You can see Canosa ahead of these 4 riders on the road as Bob Jr. comes to the front. Collar still a ways up, but the gap now sitting steady around 54 seconds to Jay Collar from this chase group of 4. And they brought it down to 53 for a moment there. Collar, his power numbers now fading down to 4 watts per kilograms. Was pushing a little bit higher earlier in this climb. So see if this group of 4 can start to bring them back here. Now, Jay Rocket of the RCC youth team, closing that gap to that group of 4 and coming past T-Wall, chasing him down as Jay Rocket chasing El Canosa. Now quite spread out back in this middle section of the race. But all eyes still set on Jay Collar, and the gap is coming down. Jay Rocket of the RCC youth brought the gap from 56 seconds now down to 50. And that number is still falling as Jay Rocket pushing over 5 watts per kilograms for a moment there. Now that he is onto the wheel of El Canosa, looks like he might ease off a bit here, but got the gap to Collar down to 49 seconds. An impressive move by Jay Rocket there. Now, finding our A riders out on course. I apologize that it took so long to find this front A group, just sticking with our C's for a while there. And off the front is Matthew Webster of the No Pins Mo-Tip RT team. He has got about 23 seconds, but the chase group behind is much more organized than in our series that we were just watching, as these A racers coming up on the crest of this Innsbruck KOM. This is, of course, the KOM forward, taking this UCI World short lap in the clockwise direction. The gap to Matthew Webster just sitting still steady right around 22, 23, 24 seconds. Sorry about that. Some of the favorites in this A race before the start of this race were, I believe, Zach Nair of the World Elite Zwifters team. Believe he was a no-show on the starting line. Luke Jabul of the Restart team. Do not see him over on the right-hand side of our screen. Not sure if he made the start or not. Romain Gilles of the Team Type 1 team, our third favorite on the day, as well as Daniel Ricciardo of the World Elite Zwifters, and Kyle McKay, the MCDT team. Check over on the leaderboard to the right of your screen, and you will see Kyle McKay in just about top 10 position here in that chasing group behind. So one of our favorites making a show in that front chasing group here. Matthew Webster, not even really an outside favorite coming into this race, but he has made an impressive performance here, coming over that KOM banner in first place now and heading on to the descent. See if we can get a nice view of that hedge fountain. Love that little feature at the top of this Innsbruck KOM. Now, the gap to Kyle McKay chasing behind, 22 seconds in this A race, but that pack will have the advantage on the descent, and we'll see if this race comes all back together before our finish. For now, though, gonna try and check in with our B category. For you guys just joining us, check out the form over in the live chat to come on to the show and share some coaching tips with the Zwift Racing community. And if you want to, just leave some feedback over in the live chat. I'm definitely open to some constructive criticism here. As Matthew Webster of the No Pins Motip team dropping into a super tuck and the gap not closing too much on this descent. See some of the riders behind also super tucking on this descent. Tell when they drop into that 0 watts per kilogram zone, most likely falling into a super tuck. We will be back with our A racers for the finish, but in the meantime, checking out our B race, where D. Berglund, M. Lorenzo, and F. Sexton have just come off the front of this group a little bit. MC chasing behind, only 4 seconds back, and then the rest of the pack spread out. 10-second gap to a Swedish rider back there, and then K. Van Dyke and a larger chase group about 30 seconds back. These B racers just about to come over the top of this Innsbruck KOM. watch them on the descent for a little while, and then we'll just have to see if we can pick up with our D race, maybe, or we will have to see how close our A racers are getting to the finish. That descent will fly by for our A race, and before you know it, they will be hitting the leg snapper, coming around the bridge and flying into our finish line. But for now, just watching as Berglund, Lorenzo, and Sexton coming over the top of that little KOM there. Shouldn't say little. See if these riders dropping into a super tuck on the descent. All of them still putting out close to 5 watts per kilograms as they come up here. Remember, they have to hit that 36 mile per hour speed to super tuck. So right now, Berglund just hitting 36, now dropping back down to 34. So if they put in a good sprint here, should be able to drop into that super tuck. And Berglund now 38 miles an hour. So if he starts freewheeling 0 watts per kilogram, he would drop into a super tuck right here. In the meantime, getting a quick check-in with one of our D racers on the road, sitting in 7th place. Or not sure if that was an accurate number, but now M. Valero sitting in 2nd place overall. This is just a quick check-in with our D race. Look at them again a little later. Don't want to miss the finish to our A race, though, so keep an eye on these racers here. Also up here is E. Spink of the BRT team. She is leading our women's race right now. These E and D races are very close together. E, of course, is our women's race, and D category is just our D category race. Chasing down Spink in the front of this women's race is R. Claire, only 6 seconds behind, the Canadian of RCS Racing. Other riders in our women's race include F. Toft and J. Kucharska. Those 2 riders sitting in 3rd and 4th overall, 58 seconds back and 2.5 minutes back. So those riders out of contention now for this win, I would say. But R. Claire only about 10 seconds back now. Still could close the gap to Spink, as the leaders M. Valero, or the leader of our E race, E. Spink, and 2nd place overall in our D race, M. Valero, about to come over the top of this KOM. Jake Hollerup of our C race putting in a solid time there, 20 minutes and 27 seconds. Going back towards the front of our race now, though, with M Sport, and still leading in this race, I believe, is Matthew Webster, but the gap is coming down, only 12 seconds to Matthew Webster, leading our A race right now. On the descent and the flats here, those chasing A racers must have closed some of that gap. Looks like our A race still fresh off the descent there. Moving at a good pace, 29 miles per hour here from Matthew Webster, and 13 seconds back to the rest of the pack. So the gap holding steady From this point on the course, Matthew Webster will come through these long twisting roads of Innsbruck, hit the cobbles, and then up and over the leg snapper for our Cat A riders. Just entering some of the cobbles now with Matthew Webster. The leg snapper, of course, a short punchy climb in Innsbruck, can be the decisive point on the Innsbruck ring course. Not doing that today though, but still could play a key role in dropping some riders before that final sprint. Then of course there's the sprint banner after the leg snapper. That is just, well, that would be an intermediate point on the course. Riders won't be sprinting for points there though. And then after that, we have our finish marked by the orange and white Z up on the minimap in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Now, 5% gradient, and this is the start of our leg snapper. Not too long, and once Matthew Webster comes around this little bend here, he will be able to see the top of that climb. On an Innsbruck ring race, I believe it was our Z Pro Tri-Series coverage, saw two hawks flying across the road just in front of a rider right at the top of this Innsbruck ring KOM. So if you're lucky, we might see those hawks again as big attacks coming from behind. All riders in the red numbers here at the front of this race, sprinting up this little climb, and the gap came down. T. Hendry, the relentless rider, chasing now. Only 9 seconds to Matthew Webster, as Webster attempts to get into a super tuck, just failing that super tuck in the first few seconds. That could cost him on that descent. And in fact, Hendry has brought back another second, and 8 seconds isn't much to take into this sprint point and across the bridge towards the finish. Little bump in the road here. Webster putting in a big kick to get over that, with trying to gain some time here. This will be an exciting finish to our A race. M. Webster now, the gap back to M. Swart, also of the Relentless team. Only 6 seconds now. They are chasing hard and fast. And the gap coming down now to 5 seconds. Looks like Matthew Webster, after a valiant attempt on that Innsbruck ring KOM, will be brought back by these chasing riders. 4 seconds now, and E. Watson coming to the front. Now, once this race comes all back together, believe Relentless has 2 teammates in that group behind. See if they use that to their advantage. Maybe a lead out from one or the other of those 2 Relentless riders. Believe Mike Swart, one of those, and Thomas Hendry, both of the restart team. Just looking to check numbers real quick. Hendry, not the strongest sprinter, with his 15-second power, one of his lowest numbers. The gap now 3 seconds to M. Swart. Check on Swart's numbers now. See which one. Now looking at Mike Swart's numbers. Just waiting for that to load. And not seeing any data on his Zwift power page, but I believe that Mike Swart would be the smarter designated sprinter for Team Restart, as the gap now holding at 3 seconds. See if those chasing riders behind can bring it back before the finish line. So close to that finish now. I thought they would, but it's starting to look like Matthew Webster still has a shot as the gap goes back out to 4 seconds to the chasers. This is incredibly hard to hold off a large chasing group like this on the flats. My kudos to Matthew Webster for this performance of the No Pins Motip team. M. Swart of the Relentless Squad trying to hold on, still only 3 seconds back. Looks like he's just pulling off the front of that group behind. We will start to see the signs indicating 500 meters to the finish now shortly. Coming through these last little bends and the start pens on the left of your screen right now. That is where these riders started just 35 minutes ago. Matthew Webster now got the gap out to 5 seconds, but big sprints coming from the riders behind. Looks like Webster will be able to make it though. AP not going to close those 3 seconds. Back with AP now, and have to see M. Swart coming through. We will just have to wait for those official numbers. But Matthew Webster, your winner on the day in the A category. Apologize, that sprint coverage was not the best. Could have maybe gotten some better video on that, but just have to see what happens in terms of the final results. Watching Jay Chudik now, sitting around a top 10 spot, I believe. Now going back with Freddie Sexton, who has pulled off the front of this B category race. 9 seconds back to D. Berglund, the chaser. Now 7 seconds, the gap being shown to both Berglund and M. Lorenzo, the two chasers behind. See if they can bring back this gap to Freddie Sexton. Saw a rider going clear into the finish just a couple moments ago in our A race. So see if Freddie Sexton can make a repeat of that performance by Matthew Webster in our A race. Just awaiting confirmation on those results, by the way. It was a tight finish from the chasing pack in that A race. M. Lorenzo and D. Berglund now 9 seconds back, pushing slightly less in terms of watts per kilograms. This rider now has come around the bridge and is on to this long straight stretch through the town of Innsbruck. Really the city of Innsbruck, but some nice sidewalks and some greenery in here. This is one of my favorite stretches in this world of Innsbruck. You can see the mountains as a backdrop in the distance. Freddie Sexton now pushing just up and over 6 watts per kilograms for a moment there. He will be upon this finish line pretty shortly. Finish line in this world is, of course, that blue UCI World's banner. Then we will have to see the sprint from M. Lorenzo and D. Berglund behind for that second place, because I do not think that they're going to be closing that 13 seconds up to Freddie Sexton before this finish. Now just coming past the start pens in the lead of our B race. The banner now in sight, and Freddie Sexton not even having to sprint for it, sitting at a steady 5 watts per kilograms into the line, and Freddie Sexton, your winner of the B race on the day. Now back with D. Berglund, and he is launching his sprint a little bit before M. Lorenzo, and it has paid off. He will be the first rider through that banner from that chasing group. So Berglund taking second and Lorenzo in third. Those are, of course, our unofficial results. Just have to wait for the confirmation from Zwift Power. Now watching one of the next B groups on the road. This contains Kay Wallagora sitting in 15th place overall. About 4 seconds back, D. McGray of the Cryogen team. These are some of our dropped riders from that B race. But now back in our C race with Luis Canosa coming over this leg snapper currently. Now off the front we see Jay Rocket of the RCC youth team. He was chasing down Jay Collerup earlier in this race. Do not see Jay Rocket, now Jamie Rocket is not sandbagging in this race, as many of the other riders racing in our C race today were. Our leader earlier, Jacob Collerup, was minimum category A on Zwift Power, and some of these chasers here also minimum category B racers. Jay Rocket of the RCC youth team already putting in a bit of a sprint here. Awfully early for such big numbers there from Jamie Rocket. But Jay Collerup is pushing pretty hard behind. Maybe Jamie Rocket just trying to make sure that he keeps Jay Collerup from closing that 15-second gap coming up on the wheels. But I would say that Jamie Rocket is pretty safe to take it down into the finish now. Of course, keep that pace up as Jay Collerup, that is a Jakob Collerup, only 18 seconds behind, but Jamie Rocket continuing to push higher watts per kilogram numbers, kind of jumping all over the board here now on those WKG numbers, but sitting right around 200 watts. Now, Jamie Rocket is one of our youth racers today, as well, on the RCC youth team, now passing the start pens here, but not registered at zwiftpower.com right now, it says, and according to Zwift Power, minimum category C, almost A, so kind of a strange number there. But for younger, lighter riders, weight makes all the difference, as your FTP is one of the deciding factors in which category you can race in. So putting out A watts per kilogram, but still only a C level FTP, I would assume. But Jamie Rocket of the RCC youth team bringing home first place in our C race, and now Jakob Collerup taking second. T. Wall, our third place rider on the road right now in this C race, being chased by Jay Vasquez. Now going back with Ellie Spink of the BRT team. This is one of the riders leading our women's race right now. sitting in second place overall, though. Being shown as second place overall. Not sure if that is correct. Are Darren Feld being shown in first, I believe, here? Maybe just, I don't know, strange thing in the numbers. M. Valero, though, leading your D race. And Valero leading by quite a lot here, over 5 minutes. Back to El Moreno, our chasing D racer. No, our Darren Feld is being shown ahead of... Now, yes, I believe Ellie Spink is your leader of our women's race on the road right now. Our Darren Feld, just a rider, more like, I believe our Darren Feld is 20 minutes behind, not in front. Just as this is a loop, a dirt one lap, Darren Feld being shown ahead of Ellie Spink. Ellie Spink is 23 seconds behind this leader of our D race, M. Valero. So we will be able to watch the finish to this D race, followed up by our leader of our women's race. Now, if you have enjoyed this live coverage and commentary of the TFC Monday Madness so far, please like this video and subscribe down below. As M. Valero taking it home in the D race, first place finish from him here as we go back with Ellie Spink of the BRT team. She is about to win our women's race with our Claire over a minute and a half behind. You can let me know down in the comments below which races you would like to see covered on the Zwift Race Place. And if you want to be featured on the show, just fill out that form linked over in the live chat to the right, and you can be featured on our community coaching tips series. Going to be starting that every week, and just have to fill out the form and you can share your Zwift Racing coaching tip with the Zwift Racing community. For those of you not watching this race live, I will include a link to that form. Well, there is a link to the form down in the description below, and then I will also include a link to that in the comments. For now, watching our Claire, our second place rider overall in the women's race, and going back now to see if our A category results have been finalized, and they have. Matthew Webster, our winner of the No Pins Motip team, first place. And he got a nice break starting on that KOM and held it all the way to the finish. Now going back with F. Toft, our third place woman on the road. Then in second place in your A race was Archie Pete, followed up by Thomas Hendry of the Restart team in third, Noah Sorrell in fourth, and George Safrankisis of the JRC Shut Ridley RT team rounding out your top 5. In the B race, Freddie Sexton taking the win, followed by Dennis Berglund, Johan Lindvikst, the rider named after the pace partner Coco Cadence, taking 4th, with M. Miller of the Rugby Tri team in rounding out your top 5 in 5th. In the C race, Jamie Rocket of the RCC youth team being confirmed as our winner, Jacob Collerup in 2nd, and then after that, still awaiting the confirmation on results, F. Toft putting in a little sprint here to the finish, She will be your third place female rider on the day in our E category. Going back now with Jake Kucharska. And just finishing up our results recap, as I said, Jamie Rocket of the RCC youth team winning our C race. Then in the D race, I believe our winner of the D race, not registered on Zwift Power, so it will be Luismi Moreno taking it home in our D race, according to the Zwift Power results. In the E race, we just watched Ellie Spink win in the women's category there, followed by Riley Clare, and then Jadzia Kucharska, the rider that we're watching right now, age 14, will be our Zwift Power third place rider on the day, as the rider we just watched finish was not registered on Zwift Power. If you want to see the full results, check out the Zwift Power results link I have down in the description below, and that will be all of today's race's finalized results. Those will continue to update as more riders come in. Now, if you enjoyed this live stream of the TFC Mad Monday race, please like the video, subscribe to the Zwift Race Place for more live coverage and commentary of Community Division Racing. And please fill out that form linked over in the live chat and the description, and soon to be linked in the comments to be featured on the show in our new Community Coaching Tips series. That concludes our coverage of the TFC Mad Monday race. Hope you enjoyed that, and we will be signing off until next time. Thanks for watching.